Well, ladies and gentlemen, this is a very special night, a very important night, and I think as Tom Horn and I have experienced over the last years, we've been doing radio interviews together and writing both together and apart. We find that the timing that the Lord places us on the radio is usually at a turning point in history. Now, Tom and Chris Putnam has just come out with their new book, Petros Romanus, The Final Pope is Here. Chapter 17 is posted on Tom's website, RaidersNewsUpdate.com, and I think everyone should absolutely be impressed with the lateness of the hour, because this is stuff that everyone has been teaching for literally over 100 years. Obviously, in modern Christendom, everybody waited for the appointed time. It's the appointed time, and I want Tom to have maximum time tonight. When you're going to send your questions, you can send them in to Bruce. Bruce can ask the questions of either Tom or myself, but please direct the ones about Petros Romanus and everything to Tom Horn. Tonight we're going to hit the Vatican. The first hour we're going to hit the Vatican and alien disclosure. Tom sent me an email, and based on Donna's response, that's where the interest lies, and we'll, as usual, all gain an infinite new understanding of this amazing research and what we're going to basically be looking forward to in the very short period. Hi, Tom.
Hey, Steve. Great to be back on the show with you guys again. Always my absolute pleasure. It humbles me to get to be with great minds like yourself and to be able to have these conversations concerning the Vatican, the alien connection, what, if anything, it has to do with the arrival of Petros Romanus. And you're right, and Donna was right. And I would say probably at least 10 to 1, Steve, and we got a lot of follow-up email following that last show that we did when Chris Putnam was on with us, and 10 to 1, it had to be people wanting to know more about the sources that I was citing concerning the Vatican, and of course Donna had to create just kind of a copy and paste email to send to all those people that wanted to go for themselves and read those documents about the Vatican's position on ET and how that might change religion, and we'll be talking about all that tonight. I will give you an update. We heard just today that the books Petros Romanus are shipping today, so we're hoping by or before the 15th that we will have those in the warehouse, in our local warehouse here in Missouri, as well as the 2 warehouses for the distributor. And this book has already broke all sales records, all previous sales records for our distributor on pre-sales of a book have been broken by this book, Petros Romanus. And so that illustrates the interest around the world that people have right now, the questions they have, Steve, for the kind of issues that you are brave enough to tackle. The people are there that have the questions, want to know what's going on in the world.
Well, again, Tom, I think it's very telling and truly compelling that years ago, even discussion of aliens would have been relegated and delegated to the realm of deliverance and the rites of exorcism. Now it seems like what is absolutely mind-boggling in the years that you and I have been doing talk radio together, me interviewing you, the thing that's fascinating is the acceleration. Now, you know me, I like to go to the bottom line. Let's start out with the alien disclosure and how that's going to affect mainstream Catholics, because it's already a given that the Vatican has its own intelligence. They have their own telescopes. They know what's going on. They have been briefed. They're clued in. But how will they sell it, Tom Horn, to the faithful who, as I said, would basically consider this stuff of the devil? And, I want to address later, too, Tom, with you, the fact that this good alien, bad alien thing, this is all playing out according to the Luciferians' plan for the ultimate deception. So can we get to that? You mind if we hit it that way first? We'll just deal with the Vatican's entire change of perspective. Go ahead, sir. The floor is
sure.
yours.
And also, if we can, sometime tonight, let's give an update on the David Flynn collection. And I would even like, if possible, to quote some of David's research, because he touched on a lot of this material long before I did. In fact, David touched on a lot of this material long before a lot of us did. And I'd like to be able to honor him by making that point. Well, first of all, let me start out by talking about what's in the headlines this week. You probably have saw one of the headlines was Countdown to Discovery of Alien Life, Tens of Billions of Rocky Planets in Milky Way Habitable Zones. That was from the European Space Agency. And what they're talking about is how their HARPS Planet Finder, interesting name, huh? But their HARPS Planet Finder has proven to them within their own science that they're rocky planets, Earth-like planets, and planets that are not much bigger than Earth and that could host life are way more common in the habitable zones around faint red stars than what we ever believed before. In fact, the international team there in Europe estimates that there are tens of billions of planets just in the Milky Way galaxy, and probably hundreds, or at least 100, just inside the sun's immediate neighborhood. So now the odds of finding sentient, intelligent extraterrestrials just went into the stratosphere. And so now, of course, the scientific teams, the bodies, what they've got to try to determine is if they should try to send signals to some of these planets to make contact. There's some who believe that's not a very good idea. And if they get any kind of response, then in what ways should they maybe follow up with that? Well, on the heels of the European Space Agency's reports, there is a new article that's at Life Science tonight, Life Science, which I think is owned by Reuters. But in any case, it's posted over there tonight. We're going to post it at Raiders News Update tomorrow morning, and it's a feature article that's called "If We Discover Aliens, What's Our Protocol for Making Contact?" And there's some pretty amazing stuff in this article, in the sense that they're saying, first of all, they're saying it's conceivable now, based on these recent discoveries, that humans could very soon come in contact with aliens, and furthermore, that life may even exist on Mars. It may exist on Europa, a moon of Jupiter. Europa, appears to have an underground ocean. And there is an astronomer from Pennsylvania State University by the name of Jacob Misra, who they quote in that article, and he's saying that there could be sentient life living in the underground ocean on Jupiter. So does this sound like the no-mo to anybody but me? And other possibilities he talks about. He says intelligent extraterrestrial beings may have traveled from a distant star system, and they've taken up residence in our solar system. They might, in fact, he says, be living in underground bases on Mars or the moon. Well, as I'm reading this stuff, knowing this is, this is Reuters, this is Life Science, this is not weekly world news, right? It makes me go back to something I was thinking about earlier this year, and that is, what is the real purpose of Curiosity, the rover that houses the Mars Science Laboratory, that's halfway to Mars right now? In fact, Curiosity, I guess this last Sunday, April the 1st, reached a milestone in that it passed the halfway point. It's traveling at something like 10,000 miles an hour to the red planet. But it's going to spend 2 years analyzing Mars around its landing site, blah, blah, blah. Well, that's what we're being told. But then you get these people that are academics, and some of them are members of NASA's astrobiology team, and they come out with statements like that there could be sentient life already on Mars living in underground cabins. I mean, is this guy just a fruitcake? And if so, why is he, the spokesman for Life Science and Reuters News? Well, it's very interesting times that we're living in. And what does this have to do with Petros Romanus? What does this have to do with the Vatican? I'll tell you something that I haven't talked about this on radio anywhere, Steve. But this, from the beginning, this has been one of the creepiest ideas surrounding the arrival of Petros Romanus, the false prophet, and any possible connection to the alien agenda. And this came to me when we were doing this research. Was there, related to Malachi Martin's vow, that an occult ritual was performed in 1963 at the Vatican and Target Chapel in South Carolina, involving a woman for the purposes of pregnation, or possibly there was a young priest for the express purpose of instilling something within him or those priests that were there. But the whole purpose of it was to enthrone Lucifer over the Vatican, according to this Jesuit priest. And that all of that was connected in another book by Malachi Martin to a final conclave that would bring to the throne of Peter a pope under the control of Satan, the false prophet. And of course, according to the prophecy of the popes, the final conclave is the one following Benedict, which right now, according to the Vatican's own news sources, the College of Cardinals are preparing right now for the conclave that will elect his successor. But here's the creepy part of this, was in this ritual that Malachi Martin brought up. And if you read his books and his descriptions, there are parts of it that sound almost identical to alien abduction descriptions. You know how that some of the best researchers into the field of alien abduction have often made parallels to dark occultism, right?
Absolutely.
The rituals, the use of blood, the use of genetics, the use of menstrual fluids, the things that they do in occult black magic and in the black mass, and in some of Malachi's descriptions, sounds eerily like some of the same activity that happens in alien abduction phenomenon. And it came to me one day that the Vatican's interest right now in alien intelligence, and if you remember, who was it? Was it Balducci? It was one of the Catholics' own bishops some years ago who said that the Vatican was already in contact. Remember that? Was already interacting. You remember who I'm talking about?
Yes, I do. And you and I spoke of that years ago on the radio. And it's my contention, Tom, just to basically parenthetically insert something into this. Look, they already are in contact. We already have them, not on Mars or the moon. And somebody said, well, you know, Steve, it's not very far if you can make it to the Mars from some exoplanet to jump into the Earth's atmosphere or jump into the Earth's oceans. And Tom, over the years that I have been on talk radio and even before that writing about this stuff, I can't tell you how many people I've personally talked to that have been in the most secret government programs, including Phil Schneider 5 days before he was murdered, a guy by the name of Tex Armstrong who absolutely validated everything that I'd ever been told, and multiple generals and multiple intel agents. But you know what the common thread was in all these guys? They said it was something so not what you'd expect from intergalactic or interplanetary visitors. He said the occult emanations. He even told me about one guy that was present at Dulce, the underground base at Dulce, who was a Christian, and when he saw some of these entities in person now, he rebuked them in Jesus' name under his breath. And listen, a general told me this, active duty, no, you know, friend of a friend of a friend of a friend. And they absolutely, the aliens demanded that no, this is interesting, Christians be present at Dulce when they cut their deal. And Dulce is just one of many alien hives that exist. So, saying all that, what I'm just saying is they're already, to amplify what you've said, look, they're already, they've met with the ambassadors. So the whole plan is, Tom, how do they, number one, as Catholics and as basically the keepers of the faith, how do they leak that into their believers? And obviously there are different Catholics, the old school Catholics versus the new school. So, and this isn't just a Catholic issue. This is a total deception of the whole world issue. So how are they going to do that, in your opinion? Because, look, they've already given us enough stuff. Isn't it amazing? You really think that they didn't know about all those planets that exist? You think they didn't know about Europa and they didn't know about the Martian caverns and all that stuff? We get to David Flynn. I mean, David Flynn wrote the premier piece on Cydonia, and that Jonathan Swift knew about Phobos and Deimos, and even the Russians talking about Phobos being artificial. All these things don't just go back to the invention of science fiction movies. They go back hundreds of years, and in the case we'll talk about later, in all the cave drawings and everything else on the aliens, the alien presence is absolutely astonishing, whether you go to the Australian outback or into Bryce Canyon, Utah, and you've got these petroglyphs, if you will, of guys in spacesuits and helmets, and they're usually 8 or 9 feet tall. So isn't it amazing now? I think what you've laid the best groundwork for, of anybody I've ever interviewed, is how everything both religious, financial, philosophical,